What it is and what it do, everybody. This your boy, Hookz Murdock, your favorite hero's favorite rapper. And I'm here with my bro, my brother, WTR Rich Ryan. What up, my guy?
Your favorite rapper's favorite sidekick. Something like that. Yeah,
Something like
outside,
that.
man.
Something like that. Be 1A, 1B. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm
You
saying?
just hit it when
And
you got good
today,
content. So,
oh yeah, absolutely. And today we're getting ready to talk about, I would say, probably one of Marvel's most unique uh properties that they've ever put out. Something that has been a little divisive, but actually has gotten a really overall very positive reception, and that is the new Disney Plus series, Wonder Man. What we're gonna do, just full discretion, big dubs. What we're gonna do, full discretion, is we're gonna give our spoiler-free thoughts first. That's gonna be our side mission for the day. Basically, so that way the folks that haven't seen the show yet or on the edge can get a sense of how we feel about it, that way, get a sense of how we feel about it without having had seen the show already. And then we're going to deep dive into everything into spoiler territory. There will be a warning. If you listen past that, it's on you, Poppy. It's on you.
that it
So,
is. That it is. You were warned. You were warned.
you were warned. So let's get into the side mission and we'll give our spoiler-free thoughts about Wonder Man. Before watching, what were your expectations leading up to like the show being released?
It's tough to say, man. So I didn't know much about the character itself to begin with, right? So obviously, and it was announced that um the show was coming out. I'm a big fan of Yahya Abdul Mateen as an actor, right? I think he's excellent. What I've seen him in, hated him in Aquaman, but that's because I hate Aquaman. Hate
Now
Aquaman. That's another story.
he was
Really.
actually pretty bad, and the character like they did Black Manta
Oh man,
terrible. Everything else
yeah,
he's been in
like
has always been good, but that was terrible.
he's been great. He's been great, but that's the first time I really got familiar with who he was as an actor. So the
Yeah,
introduction wasn't great, but he's been excellent in everything else, right? So I was excited to see him in this role. And then I saw the trailer, right, for the TV show and the concept, and I was like, huh, it's
uh,
quite interesting. I love Ben Kingsley as an actor.
yeah,
Obviously, we know he's not coming back as the Mandarin per se, so I was very interested to see what kind of role he would play in the show, and it took me by surprise, right? Without spoiler free, it took me by surprise. So I didn't really have any real expectations for it. I was going in kind of blind. All I know is I wanted some good writing, good acting, and some pretty elite Marvel action so that it could still feel like a Marvel film to me, right? That's what I went in there hoping for, and I got most of it. Got most of it. Didn't get all of it, no, but I got most of it. So my
yeah,
expectations weren't really, they weren't high and they weren't low. I just kind of went in relatively blind, just hoping that I got good content out of it. The tone from the trailers already told me that it was going to be unorthodox and different from anything Marvel has ever done.
for sure.
Um, as far as the tone of it, the stakes, the the seriousness of the show as a whole. Um, but yeah, those are my expectations, which were close to none. Um,
Well, let me
I
ask you
think I'll do
this:
the right
so
thing.
early buzz on the show was pretty like when it first started
Was
rolling out, and you started seeing the social media reactions. Did that help or hurt your expectations?
um, it hurt my expectations. I would say, because no early reviews. I think it got a 7.8 on IMDb out the gate. Rotten Tomatoes debuted at a 90, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah, IMDb, that's excellent, right?
yeah,
And I
oh yeah,
didn't spend too much time docking the actual reviews per se, 'cause I didn't want to too much be given away. But everything that I did review was about the performance, the tone. It's unorthodox, but it's great television. They're dynamic on the screen. Which it kind of I didn't see anything as it pertains to you know, well, the action was great or really tied it into the Marvel universe per se. Because
right.
it is somewhat of a standalone, right? In a sense, his powers are he's as strong as some of the most elite characters we have in the Marvel universe. And I think for me, yes, it was an introduction to the character, so we're not going to get fully into that. But I think I
Right.
wanted more of that.
Hmm.
Um, but I think again, as a standalone project, I think people who really aren't into Marvel as a whole can still watch it as just like a regular TV show and be thoroughly enjoyed by what was put out. But
For
just
sure.
me as like one thing I love about Marvel is the storytelling and the writing. But let's be real, I'm a superhero geek, right? I want to see superhero shit,
Yeah.
point
Yeah.
blank,
Yeah.
simple, crazy.
And there's a
Um,
lot of people who tap into Marvel specifically for that, who want to
right?
see the action, or or that's the aspect of it that they anticipate the most. So a show like this, which is much quieter in tone, which is much more scaled down from what we normally see from Marvel, it definitely, I think, is
Yep.
going to throw some people off. It's going to deter a few people. So I can understand where you're coming from. Um,
Great TV nonetheless, right? This isn't me
yeah,
knocking the show for what it was and what came out. It's just no, yeah, yeah,
that aspect of it just kind of fell a little flat for you. I mean, the thing with that character too is that, like you said, he's very powerful, right? In the Marvel universe, in the comic books, he's like a kind of like a supernova level threat. So
yeah.
in terms of
He
what he
is.
can do, and the vastness of his like power set, you know what I'm saying? Like Wonder Man has there's a lot of things that he's capable of. So
A
to
lot,
have a
a lot.
character with so
It's
much
neat,
potential, it probably if it, I'm sure hurt a little bit in the sense of like, we don't get those big action
right?
scenes really.
And it's not like they showed us flashes, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
get
they
into
do.
it when it.
Well, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet. Hold on. We'll get there.
Yeah,
We'll get there.
I'll hold the commentary for a moment.
We'll deep dive. But I would say early was enhanced the anticipation for me. This one was a bit of a slow build up in terms of how excited I was for it. At first, I not that I didn't care for it, but I was just like, with all the things that are coming out in 2026, and the fact that it was coming out in January, which can sometimes be a telltale sign that something's not going to be good, right?
Yeah,
I think I was just kind of off of it, and then when Marvel started rolling out the marketing for it, and they had Yaya at red carpets as Simon Williams at red carpets for like Fantastic Four and things like that, talking as the character. Um,
and that
I
was
was like,
elite.
hold up,
That was super elite. Yeah,
this is different. Okay, they're going for something else. And then when they had him and Ben Kingsley as Slattery doing like how they have actors when they're promoting movies, they do those weird like GQ interviews or um,
Yep.
you know, the stuff on YouTube. And I was like, okay, so this I actually wish they would have kind of leaned into that even more. I think they kind of stopped for a bit, but that's when my antennas
I
went up.
agree.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, this might be something different. Marvel's going real meta for this, which is different. So
Quite,
I definitely think that like that kind of built my anticipation, and then seeing those social media reactions, um, they were they were a lot more positive than I was anticipating. Like I was kind of anticipating a bit of a lukewarm response, and everything on Twitter was like one of the putting it up there with like Loki and WandaVision and some of the best
yeah.
of that we've seen from
And
Marvel
it does have that
television.
low key
So
tone.
oh yeah, oh yeah. I
Obviously,
won't
like the
I won't deny that. Yeah,
different stakes and different threat levels, right? Obviously, Loki's dealing with timeline threats and whatnot, and the threat to the Marvel Universe as we know it. But it still felt very similar
yeah,
in the sense of like you have two people who, in retrospect, they're both used to failure, right? Like Loki, as grandiose as he is, he's not great at his role per se.
right.
He's failed, right? A lot. He's failed
A
with
lot of times.
taking over New York. He's failed with being a good leader of Asgard. He's failed. No, his parents. He's
At
failed
being a
Thor.
good
Like this is
son,
somebody
a good family member,
a good
he's
son.
you know?
he's felt that a lot. It's a kind of like a character redemption for him. Whereas, like, same thing Wonder Man, where I saw a one liner on Twitter that was like really, really dope, and it was said, "Wonder Man isn't about saving the world; it's about surviving success."
Mm,
And that
I
really
like that.
stuck with me because it was great. I think that's kind of it. It tells you how different they're going with the show, just based off that one line, right? Because everything we see Marvel related has these godly and worldly stakes and things that are though people who are facing a lot of loss here, but for him, his loss is personal, right? He's
Yeah,
working towards a career that he really wanted, and it's very really relatable because we've all been there. And you got things you work towards in life, and you have these personal features you're working towards that you can never really get to. And then when you finally get to that moment, it's like, now that I have it, how do I survive it and remain the same person that I am?
yeah.
The difference is I'm trying to survive it while dealing with the powers that he has.
While
Now that he
also
finally
dealing with
got what he wanted,
well, we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there.
yeah,
We'll get there. Um, yeah, no, I
too much,
that's a
too
great
much.
that's a great point. That's a great point, bro. Because it really is a story of um, what success is, what people go through to chase a dream, how passion
Yeah,
drives us, how passion drives us to do things that people may look at as like unconventional or even ridiculous or even stupid, or lazy, and make it like, but they just don't quite understand because they don't live in your head. It's there's a lot of there's a lot of commentary about Hollywood in general and how, like how it views how it views success and how, you get treated differently and different at different levels. And
yep,
it's a beautiful bromance. At the same time, like,
it
just
is. It
for those
is.
of you guys that don't know, just before we get too into thoughts, right? Like, for those of you guys that don't know, a brief overview of what this show is about. Wonder Man is a show set in the Marvel universe, that pretty much is devoid of like any big battle scenes and any cosmic threats, and not devoid of comic book shenanigans in totality, but it's a very stripped down show, and it's about a guy named
Yep,
Simon Williams, who is an actor. I wouldn't say he's a necessarily a struggling actor, but he's not a successful actor either. And he essentially chases down the role of a lifetime playing this character Wonder Man, who in the Marvel universe is a made up superhero, and one from like the '80s or something like that. It's a movie he saw with his father, and he cherishes that moment. And that movie kind of got him into being an actor. And he is like you know, he's he struggles because of his own. He holds himself back basically. He's a little bit self-destructive. He's a little intense. But essentially, we're seeing him. The show is about us seeing him chase this role, and you know, people that we are familiar with in the Marvel universe, slide in and come into play, and they are chasing somewhat different goals, but somewhat similar goals at the same time. Trevor Slattery being one of them, and yeah, and we just see how that story plays out, and that's pretty much it, right? Like, it's not. This is not affect. I mean, who knows how this will have some sort of effect on Doomsday, the character as a whole, but like, this is not that. This is not on that scale. But it is really interesting that we get to look at Hollywood through the lens of the Marvel universe, and like what, because there has to be entertainment, and that's in that world too, right? There has to be there are shows, like they
exactly.
mentioned a
Yep.
lot of shows that really do exist and things like that. So just seeing that lens within the Marvel universe, it's like a movie within a
So
show.
dope. So dope.
Super dope. Super, super dope. Yeah.
Because what it does
And
too is it connects superhero stories to like real world struggles in a sense, and we
yeah.
get tied to these characters on a scale that we haven't before, which I think is really dope. Because again, it's entertainment, right? People are watching TV. I think back to small moments throughout the Marvel universe where after the first Avengers, we see them sitting down, right? The post credit scene, that's trauma, and they're eating and having,
Yes.
yeah, superheroes got to eat,
The
right?
qu the intimate
And
moments.
then
Yeah, yeah, superheroes
the
gotta eat,
intimate
right.
moments, superheroes got to eat. And, you know, you have these guys are their brands, right? So I saw somebody say like, "Are superheroes just are they influencers with power?" Is what it says as one of the questions, right? And I think about that scene where they're all out, and I think it's Endgame, and they're out having lunch or whatever, or breakfast, and Hulk has decided to like merge Bruce Banner as one, and he's out at breakfast signing autographs, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like." Blah. He's a larger than life figure. We say the word, sure, but you're the Hulk. I see you in person. Oh shit, let me get your autograph. These are larger than life figures, right? So I think those little things that they put in there kind of led it to this moment where it's like, yeah, they're superheroes, but they're also there's a level of celebrity to it, and people are entertained in some capacity or starstruck in the sense of like these characters have other things going on outside of what they're doing on a day to day that we see in these movies and TV shows. You mute, my brother. You mute. You mute. Minor technical difficulties.
There we go, we gonna edit that bitch out. Anyway, what I was saying was people are idolizing these superheroes like the way that some people idolize celebrities in the real world, and, you know, they put
It happened again. No.
Okay. Am I back?
You back. You back.
Yeah, my mic died, my bad. But, yeah, so, anyway, um, overall, I would say, like, there's a lot of influence in this show too that you can or there's a lot of shades of other really good television shows that I get in this, like, I there were times where it felt like watching The Studio on Apple TV Plus. There were times where it felt like I was watching Atlanta. There were times where it felt like I was watching Entourage,
Preach.
you know? Um, there were then at the same in the same token, there were times where it felt like, um, where it felt like, God damn it, I'm forgetting the name of the show, but it was just, it's like, you know, you get that, it goes to those like hyper realistic, um, moments, like when he's with his family or when they're like, when they're running out of the house and the guy's shooting and it just like the camera and the whole vibe switches up and it almost feels
Yep.
like, or even like there's a scene where they're driving and the camera's like on, I think it's in episode 3, and the camera's you know, sitting on the outside of the car and they're catching like that shot that feels like a Barry Jenkins kind of shot. Like it's
Hmm.
there's a lot of influence coming from a lot of different places here. It's a beautifully shot show and a beautifully acted show, man. I mean, obviously it's a show about actors, right? So it should be, but a beautifully acted show.
Yeah. The acting's some of the best I've seen in, against any Marvel entities for sure. For sure.
It's a love
And I
letter to
think what's dope
acting, like
about
to the art of it, you know?
yeah, it is. And I think, you know, it's so it's dope to kind of see they've done it before, but it's kind of cool to see just Marvel like openly poking fun at the entertainment industry, right? In
Yeah,
itself. Which I think they did that a lot within the
definitely.
show. It's basically like it's Hollywood satire just wrapped up with like a Marvel entity, which
Yeah.
is pretty cool. Character development, man, was just it was
It's
next level.
yeah. I mean, Yaya and Ben Kingsley do carry majority of the show, but there are some really, really good side characters that have their moments and have their impact ultimately on the journeys of the main two. But they play
Yeah,
their parts really, really well. Like, you know, everybody in his
yeah,
family, His agent, love his agent Janelle, the actress X Mayo who plays his agent Janelle, awesome. Um,
She was
so
great.
it's a nice,
The
it's
brother was
like
great.
suddenly a really great cast.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's no, I'm not for me too, expectation wise, I think going into it, is that you're not really yeah, Marvel has some great writing, but I'm not used to a Marvel series being so dialogue driven. Even with
Right.
slower shows like Loki and whatnot, like just slower tone concepts out there and projects that, but this one was really dialogue heavy, where the dialogue
Yes.
is carrying most of the show. So for a Marvel show, that's a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
And so to me, it kind of took me back a little bit. So I have to rewatch it. I'm going to, because I think rewatching it now with that in mind also changes it for me. Because I think
Definitely
watching
will.
it live in
Yeah.
that moment, watching it live in that moment, I know there's certain points where you get to episode 4 or 5, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of waiting for the big Marvel moment, right? Like who's the big bad? And it's like you don't get that here. There's
You
no
get it a little bit.
traditional villain. A
No,
little
well,
bit,
the
yeah,
big
a little
bad, no,
bit.
you don't get me. You get a smidgen of that Marvel, like that Marvel sauce on there. You know what I mean? You get a little taste, but
What's the organization who's like they haven't replaced Shield, but they're like the post snap recovery
uh
team? Well, fuck,
I believe it's the Department of
Department of
damn it, it's like the
Recovery.
department. What is it?
Is it recovery or something like that?
Nah, I'll tell you right now. It's
Damage control. Damage control.
Department of Damage
Damage
Control.
control.
Yeah.
The power of damage.
Yep.
Yes. So I think when they start to introduce the organization a bit, it kind of brings you back like, yes, we're still in the Marvel universe, and there are again, it brings that real life feeling to the show where it's like, yeah, in the real world, there's organizations out there that need to put a hold and grip on these different powers and entities that are walking around in this world, right? Because
For sure.
yeah, outside of the Avengers, we have Shield and concepts like that. But I always think back to that moment where General Ross is talking to the team, and he's like, where's Thor, right? Where's Cap? Where are these guys at? Because best believe, if I replace a few couple ton nuclear weapons, I'll be held accountable for it. And it's the same concept, right? Like, how does it affect how we are in the real world? And I think seeing, and shout out to him as well. I forget his name, but he was in Succession, and I believe in a few other shows. The guy that runs the Department of Damage control.
Arian
Um,
Moayed.
yes, yes, yes. I liked his little bits as well. But we had a few
Yeah.
reminders where we see him popping up, and it's like, I'm here to deal with Marvel related shit, right? And yeah, this guy's an actor who's trying to figure out things in the real life, but he's also like a
A threat.
extreme threat
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
if not controlled and monitored. We don't know him from Sam, right? Like, I know his mental state of mind is he could be deranged, he could be a psychopath. Like, we got to get eyes on him, and I can't blame him for doing so. Parts of me are like,
Yeah.
man, this guy's trying to live his life. He's trying to mix it up himself, leave him alone. But then the
Yeah.
realist and he's like, well, yeah, you got to put eyes and hands on this nigga because we have no idea what's capable of, and then we get to
Yeah.
see it now certain points
Yeah.
throughout the show.
And truth be told, it would like you said, it wasn't the wrong decision, right? Because, and we'll get into it shortly. We'll jump into spoilers in a little bit, but so this is almost your warning, not the full warning. But there is. I have questions about whether or not Simon Williams is a good person. I think he's a good person, right? But he is very much so a dangerous person at the same time because he is the way that he is and he has the type of powers that he has. So
Yeah,
it's very much so on the fence about whether or not he's not the hero type. I'll tell you that right now. Like he's gonna be reluctant to being anybody's hero. So the fact that they're doing this makes a ton of sense. So like it makes sense within the context of this story. 100%.
yes,
100%.
100%. Agreed. Agreed.
Um, so overall, what would you say your like spoiler free one sentence thought or review of Wonder Man would be? Also, before we get to that, I just want to really quick shout out Destin Daniel Cretton, the director of Wonder Man, who actually physically
Yep.
directed 2 episodes, but he's the creator of this show. He is also the one that directed Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. He's also directing the upcoming Spider-Man movie, which again is looking like an all-timer. Um, this man's in
Man,
his bag.
let's
He's
get
in his bag. He's in his bag, and I'm excited to watch anything that he's doing. He's actually doing a Naruto movie too, but yeah, we'll see. We'll
I'll
see
get
how
into that at some point.
one day, one day, one day. But yeah, so one
um,
sentence, one thoughts on Wonder Man, spoiler free.
spoiler free. I try to come up with some like witty and like quirky one liners for this.
Yeah,
I failed at every level. For me, what I wrote down here is shifts focus from explosions to storytelling. That's what I came up with.
like that.
Because that's
I love
generally
that.
how I felt, regardless of to like I said earlier, the action sequences and the storytelling and the dialogue, whatever it may be. And I think that kind of sums up. That doesn't sum up entirely what the show's about, obviously, but it's one of the core themes of a shift that we see them do here that we haven't seen them really do before. So that'd be like my one line wrap up.
I
It's
love
the
that.
best I got.
Your best is good enough today, brother. I love that, and I think that that is a perfect way to kind of prep someone who is on the fence about this show to understand what they're getting into, but to still excite them because who doesn't love great storytelling, right? That's one of the reasons why we love comic books and the MCU. Um,
People with short attention spans.
those you guys, we looking at you, motherfuckers. I would say my one sentence, spoiler free thoughts on it would be um, a beautiful love letter to acting and the art of chasing a dream is how I would
Mm,
encapsulate the show.
I love that. The
There were
art of chasing dreams. Yeah.
yeah, the because you experience in this show, you experience Simon's highs, you experience his lows with him. If you've ever had a dream, especially something in the arts, you know, like us chasing music for so long and being after it, like there are nights where you can't function as a human being in a regular life because what you're eat eating, breathing, and sleeping is, what you're passionate about. And I think this show shows the highs and lows of that
Yeah.
very effectively. Very effectively. All
I
right.
think they call
So
that
this is
the Sam Darnold syndrome now is what it's called.
exactly, my boy. Hey, my man went from seeing ghosts to chasing rings. If he could do it,
Crazy.
you could do it. Facts.
Anything is
There's actually
possible.
anything is possible. There's actually before we jump into our spoiler-free thoughts, this will be your final warning. So shout out to the folks that are still here, that have watched Wonder Man. Shout out to the ones who don't give a shit about spoilers and just want to come on this adventure with us. Y'all are the real gangsters. And we're gonna get into that real soon. So well, actually, let's just jump into it right now. Let's do it. Um, that was your warning. Let's go. So character. Let's talk about it, right? Let's talk about Simon Williams, the character itself, himself. Um, were there moments in Yaya's performance, like particularly that stuck out to you? Are there like character traits that stick out to you or kind of like shine the most? Like what
Yeah.
makes this one of the best performances in the MCU?
My favorite moment from the show, I would say from a character perspective, is the opening scene where he's and as I said, it's anticlimactic because the rest of the show is still great, but it tells us a
Yeah,
lot about his character out the gate, right? How
that
much
was
of a
just everything.
perfectionist he is, how he's his own worst enemy. right, they no, you can see like the irritations build gradually with him and the director, right, and the showrunner. He's the scene opens up where he's going out for the role. He's like, well, I think we should be doing this, right? I think we should be doing that. And do you think that this character actually would be reading this type of book if he was doing it? It speaks a lot to how his mind works and how he operates and
How
the
he thinks about acting,
detail, how he thinks
like
about
how he
acting, right?
approaches it. Yeah,
He's so locked in on his craft, but he's too locked into his detriment. Like there is such a thing as being, too locked in and knowing when to pull the reins back, right? You're not the showrunner. So you can't have everything your way. You have to give up some of that control
you
within
do.
what you think is right or wrong. And this you gotta play a political game. You gotta play politics in anything in life, period. Work, relationships, is a little bit of politics to everything that you do. And he didn't really know how to play the game until he came across Ben Kingsley. He was like, hey man, like kind of doing too much, you think too much into it, you gotta dial it back a bit.
Yeah,
Um, but I think that opening scene where we see him get very particular with every little thing as far as the character goes in the scene. He's somebody who he's not spilling out bullshit, right? He spent time reading into the role, reading into the character and the storyline. To the point he's like, yeah, I know what I'm talking about, kind of what I'm doing. Let's get down to the specifics, and those specifics matter, right? And the particulars matter. I watch shows
they
and
do.
movies now where small details are missing. I'm like, that doesn't kind of make sense, or that really wouldn't happen
Hmm.
in the real world. Like, how did you guys watch 3 or 4 edits and then miss that, right?
Yeah,
And he was doing was making sure that we don't miss shit like that. So that scene really stood out to me out the gate, and that's kind of what pulled me in to the rest of the show. And like his character
yeah,
really intrigued me from that point forward.
yep.
Um, but I
I
think was
agree.
that yeah, that was one of the ones for me, bro. That was one of the ones.
No, I fully agree because that scene, like, it told us so much without just laying it all out there or him giving some sort of like inner monologue or us seeing a montage.
Yeah.
Like all we had to see was him at work in this very specific situation. And what's crazy about it too, if you think about it, is that this was like a big break for him. This was a huge deal for him. He was on American Horror Story, right? So
Yeah.
for him to like jeopardize that because he's so passionate, like, it just goes to show you that he did not it wasn't about chasing success, it was about doing the best job possible. And that like kind of sticks that theme sticks in that same context throughout the entire show because Ben Kingsley's character kind of
Yeah.
echoes, our job is I forget the line, but basically our job is to like look in the mirror or something like that. And he says something along those lines. So like um that's such a good scene. And then to see how he's treated then, right? And then, kind of jumping around a little bit, but juxtaposing to the other scene where he gives notes after he books the Wonder Man gig, and he's sitting there,
Yes.
and they're clearly like clearly annoyed by it, and it clearly wasn't the first time he had done it, and it was early on in the production, but at that point he had clout. At that point, he's Wonder Man. You know what I'm saying? So what are you really gonna say to him? And even the actual director of the movie was there. The Oscar-winning director of the film was like, yeah, fine. We'll switch that. We'll bring the writer in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just that juxtaposition was so dope. But I love how he handled himself pretty much the exact same way in both scenes, right? Like you talked about earlier, like changing when you find success. Like it's interesting because his approach to the work never changed. His approach to people
Never.
changed. His approach to people and those around him and trying to like deal with the gravity of his situation changed, but his approach to the work was the same, not the
Yeah.
same the whole time because he did lighten up and ease up a little bit, but like he was that he was that passionate the entire way through.
The entire way through, he was really big on just like owning his identity and like who he was as an actor. Right, he wasn't really willing to sell his image or compromise that. And I think it's kind of dealt with like no, fame is empty without purpose per se is what I kind of took from it. And he had a purpose his entire time was that yeah, I want to be. I don't really care to be famous. I want to do great work and be in these great roles and
Yep.
I don't want to compromise who I am as a person or how I am as an actor to get these roles or to uh appease anybody, whether it's director or the producers, right? And I think we kind of got to see what it felt like to be seen, like being truly known throughout the industry because he got that respect at the end of it all. And
Yep.
it's not like he was a bad actor. Nobody ever said he was a bad actor throughout the entire
No.
time of the show. It was more
He
so a
even had an agent
personality
that
who,
was successful. Like his agent was successful.
yeah,
She worked she was like a partner at a big ass firm. So it's not like he was that's why I say he wasn't struggling. It's just that he was getting in his own way.
yeah. A lot of the conflict that we saw on the screen was, it was internal and personal conflicts that he was dealing with for 90% of the show, right? There was no real big bad that he was coming up against. The big bad was himself. And,
Yep.
how could he navigate that and stay out of his own way to become the actor that he wants while still trying to, manage this power that he has that, you know, he dealt with a lot of issues. You can tell with his emotional regulations.
Yeah.
And not to say that he was walking
Yeah, for
around
sure.
angry the entire time, but even with small things, right? And I think for him, especially him, it's harder to regulate those emotions because one small thing, as you can see, would cause him to explode. No pun intended, right?
No,
Um,
literally. There
you know,
so spoiler, there are explosions in this show. All right. There's just way more storytelling. Carry on.
yeah, yeah. I think, and I think, I think it was like that. I asked myself watching it was like, I guess does validation kind of kill creativity? I think it's something that he kind of
Oh,
asked himself a lot as well. Was like, is being validated by my peers or by directors or getting certain roles validate me? But do I have to
yep.
sacrifice my creativity as an actor, who I am, to get said roles? And
Right.
seeing that internal battle throughout the entire show, I think was really, really dope for me. Again, excellent writing, the acting, and some of the best acting on the show didn't have any. It wasn't really dialogues. It was just him and the monologues and a lot of facial acting and body language of him
Yeah.
battling certain things and kind of going
Yep.
through the motions of his day to day. I think that was some of the best parts of the acting of the show.
Yeah, like so that I think the scene that really sticks in my head a lot. I actually rewatched it before we hopped on was when they go to the family party and he's
Mhm.
interacting with his family. And I think
Yep.
that's the scene where you see a lot of that like dialogueless emotion in his face and like or even like at points lack thereof. You know what I mean? Because it's like he's the he it's just so interesting. So that whole episode is so interesting because it's like it starts off and he's like happy to see his mother and happy to be there. He's nervous and he's like anxious, but he doesn't start off like upset. And it's just like the longer he spends with his family and spends around this group of people that he grew up literally right next to. There's a girl, the girl that says she rode the bus with him every day. And
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, Trevor says you must have so many stories." And she's like, "No, we didn't talk much." And he's like, "But you rode the bus every day." Like they played it for comedy, but it was really fucking sad. You know what I mean? Like, and then
It's true. True.
and the scene that always that just is burned into my brain is when they're taking the family photo and he's standing there and he is so like uncomfortable and just
Yeah.
like unhappy, dog, and everybody around him is just jubilant and smiling and like, and he's just standing there. He's like, man, if I could be anywhere else right now, and
Out of yeah.
yeah, I'd rather do it. And he's just, so he's like the black sheep in his family because of what he loves. And what he loves came from his father who is no longer around and who he blames himself, right? He blames himself for his father's death. So in a way, his dream of acting is like his last thing that he's holding on to from his dad who he blames
It's
himself
an
for not
ode
being
to his
around
dad,
anymore.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like and then to see people shit on that, people that like his cousin, he's talking with his cousins in the scene, and they start they're like, he's like, "Oh, I had 3 auditions in a acting class last week," and they're like, "Oh, is that a lot?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's a full week." And they start talking shit about him in Creole, and he's like, "You know, I
Yep.
can
And
hear
then
you,
when
right?" That whole like, it's crazy,
and then
and
the
it's
other part of
so
that when they was
realistic.
when he was saying he had the callback or whatever for one of
Yes,
man, there was like this
his
he
brother.
had a girl, yeah, the brother, yeah. That instead of
Yeah,
click then it was like, yeah, it's you fucking did regardless. Like it's not a callback for a commercial. Like this is
it's just
a
for a
massive
huge,
mega studio project. Like and
yeah,
just
Oscar winner.
and I think and what I really, really liked about it too is that some people may not notice, obviously, but it's also a cultural thing, right? A lot of
Yes.
people in that culture, whether it's African culture or even Asian culture, a lot of old school parents, it's traditional. You become a doctor, you become a lawyer, a professor, anything with a 9 to 5, benefits,
Anything
career,
stable,
staying
any
stable,
stability.
right? So you know being an actor and you're telling us that you had a call back for Wonder Man, they're really oblivious and intentionally naive to what that even means, what they represent. So
Right.
I think that was really dope that they showed that as well. If like the Shammy was like, all right, well, no, if you like it, I love it. I can still get you
Yeah.
work though. If you need a job, you know what I mean? If you need
Right.
work, I can help you. And it's like,
Right.
nah, nigga, let's try to do something big here, Um, real quick, not to step off from that, but I saw like it's like a
Mhm.
clip circulating online right now. I forget which player it is. It's a player for the Seahawks.
Mm.
It's been going around on Twitter. His mom, and she was like, yeah, she's from Nigeria, born and raised. She's lived in the States for only a few years. And then like, how do you feel about your son being in the Super Bowl? And yada, yada. She's like, I guess it's cool. Yeah, like she's excited, and
Yeah.
I'm happy. People telling me it's a big deal. I don't really know, so I'm just
Yeah.
here to support. And they
It's
generally don't
so
understand the
true.
magnitude of what he's doing. To that cultural
Right.
difference, there's like, I think they really tapped that on the head as well.
They did, and that's why, and that's like that's the richness of this show, right? Like it's layered, it's deep because you
Yep,
got people that have yes been the black sheep in their family, but then you have people in black and Hispanic and like you said Asian families that have been the black sheep daring to do something different, and that's a whole nother level. It's a whole nother level because all they expect you to do is something that'll bring you stability, anything that'll lock in security. Doesn't matter if you like doing that shit. Obviously, you like it enough to do it, right? It's not, you know, passion is that's a hobby. Acting is, but then those things become real when they become real, and like you see even that at the end of at in the end when they finally do watch the movie and
yep.
they
The
like
interaction with him
they
and his brother.
yeah, man, like that shit hit me because it's like you go so hard, not really to prove nothing to nobody, but that's just like a byproduct of your success. And to get that acknowledgement, like I know that shit had to mean something for him, because even he thought his brother blamed him for the father's death. So to see him like have such an emotional reaction to his art, it was almost like, man, you understand me for the first time. You know what I mean?
I
That
can feel
shit,
and it
like,
makes the work feel more fulfilling. Like I didn't do all of this for nothing.
yeah. Yeah. Like, bro, I remember, a little side story, but I remember obviously this is on a much smaller scale, right? But I remember putting out the Adventures of. I remember putting out the first project and like I was at in Atlanta with y'all. Matter of fact. I remember putting out that project and waiting, seeing everybody online changing their profile pictures and
Yep.
actually having anticipation, and it took a little longer. So everybody's like, "What the hell is this shit?" Like you feel that. And I remember, when I first dropped that shit, and like for the first hour, I just wasn't looking online at no plays, no reactions, no nothing. Dog, I shed tears, bro, in private because you give everything to something, right? And you just and it's just in the hopes that somebody resonates with it or that it affects somebody or like, maybe somebody sees it and like gives you your flower. I don't know, but you give your everything to something and it's just this, so that whole scene just kind of encapsulated that moment. So that joint had me like just the way that it goes into the family dynamics and And just him as a character is just so well done, man. So well done.
And again, like we said earlier, that's part of what makes the show different in the sense of like it's tugging on real life heartstrings, right? In a way that Marvel hasn't before. Like you see people die on screen all the time, right? And
Right.
we didn't even deal with any real loss here. But it tugs on more real life, everyday emotions and feelings that we are dealing with on a regular basis. Putting in the work,
Yeah.
the grind, um, work that you're committed to or passion projects and things of these sorts that kind of resonate with people on a day-to-day basis versus like, you know, Black Widow getting thrown off a cliff. You know, yeah, it's
Right.
sad.
Yeah, yeah.
And like,
Into a fucking pit of nothing.
yeah,
Yeah,
Tony
yeah,
getting
yeah.
snapped the wrist hurts, but it's not like
But we
I'm
need
not.
we
I don't worry
need
about
these
it. That's what
stories
I
in the
need.
Marvel universe though, bro. Like we need these. And this is why
Yeah,
characters like, the street level characters resonate so hard is because we need to know
100%.
we want to see for a fully fleshed out world, right? For me to feel like this world is lived in, I want to know these things. I'm the type of person that gets in heavy with the lore, right? I know you like that too. So it's just like
Yep.
I want to know what movie won a fucking Oscar in 2003 before the snap. You know what I'm saying? Like shit like that. Like I want to know that weird type of shit because I'm that's how I become even more invested in the universe. And Simon Williams is definitely a character that I am now invested in. The reason why I say
I'm locked in.
yeah, I'm locked in, bro. He's good in my book, and and I think it's just gonna keep getting better from there because like now, anytime they do a Wonder Man show, let's say he does get involved with the Avengers, when they do another Wonder Man show, they're gonna have like that stuff's gonna be canon, right? So like, how do they bring it back to that realistic, grounded tone now that he's maybe done
Yeah.
some more, actual superhero level shit? Or how does he play into it, period, right? Like does he play into it as an entertainer and not a hero? Does he play into it as is he reluctant or does he, like take that Wonder Man mantra on, with gusto because that character is so important to him. I'm curious, very very curious to see where it goes. But I'm
And
invested
then
in
we
his
have to,
character for sure.
one thing we didn't touch on yet. Obviously, we saw his powers, and we got to see how dynamic and how just one little tick can get to see his full extent, his powers. But we got to talk about the fallout of his actions and what he did in the end here, right?
Absolutely,
Like,
absolutely,
can he even go back to acting after this? Because there's gonna be
right,
questions in the lingeries, and now that we know, like flew this nigga out of here. You might
right.
have came in regularly and like incognito, but the way you left was some shit. We know who you
Will
are,
be
what you're
unnoticed.
capable of. Too many signs are pointing towards you being, a super human being. Um, can you just go back to making a box office hit now, or like what did that cost you, right? And then it took him
Right.
so much from him to Trevor turning him in, it was dope and it meant a lot, but he didn't really have much to live for per se, in the sense of like, you know, the guy ain't got shit going on. He's going to prison anyways. He's just
Yeah, yeah,
well, we see as Simon's character, he's been working so hard to get to this point. Now he finally got here and things were where they're at. He's willing to sacrifice that and kind of give it up to take care of somebody who took care of him, which again speaks to
right.
his character and how he operates. And the same way he was willing to really sacrifice his integrity for a role or for a film, who he was for that. Same
Yeah.
goes in like a real situation that he's dealing with in terms of even exposing himself as a superhero, right?
Hmm.
And being a super powered being. Because there's a level of exposure there that he was willing to just compromise and put out there, um, for compromising his super hero identity, no, super powered identity because he's not a hero, and then compromising just what he is as an actor as well, just to get his mans out. So I think that was elite. That was elite.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It leaves us with so many questions and future possible implications. I mean, like even the whole um Department of what is it? Department of the
Damage control, yeah.
Damage Control. Uh,
Mhm.
so that low key is like a whole like the introduction of that entity, right? Because they're obviously kind of filling in that place, that void left by like Shield and like you said, some of those other bigger
Yeah.
entities. But the Department of Damage Control in particular is going to play a huge role in reportedly in Spider-Man. Jermaine Truman from
Yes.
Severance
Yes.
is apparently playing the head of the Department of Damage Control, and the idea is that they are anti-mutant or kind of like on a mutant witch hunt almost. And when they get introduced, and there's even thoughts and things circulating, like the question still begs: is Simon a mutant, right? Like, where did those powers come from?
Yeah.
Is he a mutant? Is
It's a
that
really
how
good point.
is
Yeah.
that Marvel's introduction to mutants in this MCU? Like, we thought we were gonna get it with X-Men, but we actually got it with Wonder Man, you know? Like, I'm curious to see
That's a really
where
good
that
point.
goes, you know? It's just an
And then
interesting
I
link
didn't realize
between the 2.
I didn't realize as well that, not to sidestep with Wonder Man too much more while we're
Mhm.
here, that the Department of Damage Control they're affiliated with Stark Industries.
Yes.
So part of me is probably like, so is what role or how much of a role is Pepper and Happy have in Department of Damage Control, especially as it pertains to Spider-Man coming out next? Like what role do they play? Is it funded by them and they're kind of oblivious to what is happening?
Yeah, what they're
Or
actually doing.
this is an organization? Yeah, this is an organization that becomes no necessarily a threat because again, what I think back to what Cap said when they was doing the Sokovian Accords, whatever. Sokovian.
The Kobe, yeah.
Circadian rhythm. When they were doing the Sokovian Accords, and he was like, the issue is, no, how do you decide where we should go if we feel like there's a threat somewhere else? And you guys restrict us from going somewhere X, Y, and Z. So,
Right.
when you have it's always interesting when you have humans trying to monitor and restrict and control these god level powers and these god level people. Um, so I'm already curious to see what kind of role the Department of Damage Control takes on versus like Shield or General
Yeah.
Ross or Hydra or even the Mark. Like very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, like, are they gonna be more aggressors? Who's funding them? Like you said, you know,
Right.
what is their actual objective, right? Because they it's not clear here. It's really not. The objective here is clear. Obviously, is to get Wonder Man off of the board, Simon Williams off of the board. But overall, what is their objective? I'm very curious. Speaking about Trevor a little bit, I just shout out to Ben Kingsley, who also gives a fantastic performance, a really hilarious performance as Trevor Slattery, who is probably the best original character in Marvel, from the MCU. It's arguable. A lot of people
Yeah.
like Darcy. I don't know how you feel about Darcy. Um, but from Thor. But yeah, no, Trevor Slattery. I think he elevates everything that he's in. Um,
Hundred
Obviously Ben
percent.
Kingsley's a fantastic actor, and like he gets to show off his chops in a lot of different ways here. I love the scene between the two of them where they really, like, you can tell they genuinely become friends. Like, from the very moment, like when
Yeah.
they're in the movie theater watching I forget what it was. If it was like an old Scorsese movie or something like that, I think, that
The
they were watching.
introduction. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was great. But like when they when they were in Simon's apartment and they start doing like monologues to one another, I think it's like the beginning of episode 3. They start doing monologues to one another, and like you could tell it's clicking that, like, yo, this dude loves the craft just as much as I do. And you could
Yeah.
tell that they don't really get to spend time with people like that. So that's why they clicked so hard and became friends. Like, I thought that was such a dope, natural way for that to happen. And
Hundred
like,
percent.
and obviously the fact that he was kind of like, it wasn't like a secret that he was kind of betraying him, right? Like, we were in on it the whole time, but for the most part, but like, um, you saw that like genuine friendship and genuine chemistry building. Like, you could see how badly he did not want to do any of the shit that they were forcing him to do. Um, So and the fact that he was resisting it for so long, and then he does what he does at the end and makes like the ultimate selfless sacrifice. I thought that was like a
Yeah.
really dope way to wrap his character arc up. Even if like I mean, obviously he'll be back, but even if he doesn't do too much other than like pops up in Wonder Man in the future, I'll be happy with that because I think he got a really complete
I'm content with
arc in
that.
the show. Yeah.
100%. 100%.
And just the tone overall, like I think that it it was interesting the way that the tone shifted. The pacing in the show for me was really well done just because it was like it kept you intrigued right from the get-go, and every episode left with some sort of like hook or some sort of like oh shit moment. And it's also the perfect show to binge. So I'm very glad that they didn't drop that week to week because I don't think it would have done that well. I don't think it would have done anywhere near as well if it was dropped on a weekly basis. That's not one that we
Yeah,
needed,
because it's
a
easy
week to
to
talk about.
yeah, it's easy to get disengaged from it because it's kind of a slow burn and it's character development and whatnot. But it's
Yeah,
not character development in the sense of where if you watch it week to week, it's easy to forget about it over the course of 6 days. You know what I mean? And be like,
for
well,
sure.
other shit is coming out, the shows are dropping. It's again, it came out at a time where you know, top of the year, there's a lot of activity happening, not necessarily Marvel wise, but there's a lot of content being put out there. So it's easy to put it to the side and not come back to it for some weeks or whatever it may be. So I think dropping it all
Mhm.
at once, you let people consume it however they want to consume it. You can binge it, watch three
Especially when
episodes at
it
a time, come back to two.
right, exactly, and you can digest it at whatever speed. Like I went to go watch one episode for the pod that night. I ended up watching five because it was just like that
Yeah,
shit was like
yeah.
chips.
That's
But
how I went. We watched three that night.
yeah, it's just that it's that good, and it's kind of a science the way that they choose what shows drop weekly versus which ones drop all at once. But like I guess this
Yeah.
show felt it didn't feel like the stakes or the implications of the show were going to be that big, going into it. So I think all at once made a ton of sense because then you can let people before people try to shit on it, they can make a fully formed decision about it by having watched the whole thing. So that was a great call
And then
by Marvel.
it really helps with the early reviews. Like it was a like again, those early reviews manipulate how
Yeah,
people view things. Right? If it would have dropped, with a 40% Rotten Tomatoes, well, all right, fuck it, I ain't watching it. Right? I'm watching it as a Marvel fan, but
hundred
most people
percent.
who are just like common users or watchers wouldn't have watched it. But
Yep.
now I get to
Or they
see
would
these
have waited.
full reviews of everybody who dissects the entire show as a whole. So okay, it changes the scope of how you view the
Yep.
series as a whole.
Absolutely. Absolutely, bro. I
Oh,
definitely,
no, I love it.
yeah. I gotta
I
say,
love it. I love
so
seeing Marvel and
yeah, get in this bag. I'm excited to see them get in this bag because like I think for a while people didn't think Marvel was capable of bringing depth to their shows and their series or their movies for that matter, and I think the last
yeah,
few releases have kind of knocked that theory out the window for sure.
yeah. I
We're
think
gonna
Wonder
give our
Man was.
ratings. Oh, my fault, bro. Go ahead.
I think
Yeah,
it
my fault.
restored a hope in a lot of people as well. People who aren't necessarily Marvel fans, and people who are giving Marvel a goal around for the first time, giving it a chance, and people that have like hated the previous series and things of that nature. It's like, okay, shit, you guys did this. This is excellent. I'm excited for what comes next. And all of this, even though it doesn't directly tie into Doomsday, it's all a build up to Doomsday. At the end of the
Yeah.
day,
There's always
all
gonna
of it
be
is a
some
build up.
sort of
Sure,
thread connecting it. Always.
yeah. And just setting people up to, well, okay, if you put out content that's good again, we'll back up. When you back up, it's restoring faith in the community. I think for those who lost it, I never really
Facts.
lost faith in Marvel. Some shit I don't like, but I never really lost faith, and it kind of gives me
Yeah.
okay, getting into that bag again, but a different
Absolutely.
bag.
This one right, but getting into that bag, but almost like when you get into that bag, but you're 10 years older, you know what I'm saying? And you learn from some of your mistakes. That's how this show felt. It felt like Marvel was getting on their grown shit a little bit in the sense of not even in terms of like violence or themes or anything like that. It's just in the way that they
Yeah,
approached this show. And yeah, I mean, we can jump into ratings now. Uh, well, right before that, is this the greatest Marvel Disney Plus series of all time, in your opinion?
The greatest series? No, it's not. It's not.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
uh, I think it's top three. It's top
I
three.
was going
I'm
top
still.
three
I
too.
mean, I could be in
Yeah,
the
I was
minority
going top
here.
three.
Daredevil. It's still Daredevil's up there for me still, and then obviously the Loki series. I think
Yeah,
it comes right behind those two
yeah. I love WandaVision too.
because again,
WandaVision was also incredible.
WandaVision's
Uh,
incredible, bro. It's incredible. Mm.
yeah, this is probably in my top three. Eventually, we will be doing, just for those of y'all that don't know, which would be everybody. We will be doing a full blown definitive Marvel MCU tier list over the course of this podcast. That is one of the many great
Yes.
grand adventures that we will be going on. So I'm really excited to do that with these shows. Definitely in my top three though for Disney Plus Marvel shows, and my Watchtower rating, my official Watchtower rating out of 5 is a 4.5. I love this series. I think this is
Ooh,
one that
heavy, heavy,
I
heavy.
would absolutely watch heavy. Yeah, I teeter-totted for a little bit, but I think they stuck the landing with the last few episodes. I love being able to kind of get a glimpse of the Mandarin one more time. Like he got into that role one more time. That was
Yeah,
dope. Seeing Simon in the suit, like they stuck the landing for me. So I give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars.
yeah. I'm not right there with you, but I'm close enough. I gave it a 4. I gave it a
Nice.
4 out of 5 just because, again, like I said earlier, I'm a sucker for some action. I am. I like to see, I
Yeah.
think especially when I'm watching anything Marvel related. Sure, great writing. Even the cinematography was excellent. Character arc was
Right.
great. Everything was excellent across the board. I just
Everything
would
hit
have no,
except
but it's just also it's not fair because it's hard for it to hit in a show like this because it wasn't that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's just about character
Yeah.
development and showing this relationship between these two and the guy through each other conflict. So you can't, and the type of power that he has, the type of threat that he is, you can't give him
Yes.
some nut ass half ass villain. So where at what point do you
No,
introduce a
it would
villain
have
that's
ruined it
powerful enough to even take him on? Man, to us to give us some type of that action. So it's a bias thing here, and how they did it made perfect sense. But for personal
for
preference,
sure.
I'm right there at a 4. Right there at 4.
For sure. Well, at the very least, we did get a nigga get a hole in his head, get a hole punched through his head. So
Which
there
was
is that.
crazy, and I think again that's why I showed
That
it
scene
too
was
that
dope.
you can't give him no villains. Yeah, you
No,
can't give him no
because he'll
willy
just do
nilly
that.
villain. Where we put in front of him
Yeah, he'll just
is
do
going
that.
to be a god level threat as well because
Yeah,
in the shows too, like yeah, we see these Avengers and they kick ass all day, sure, but that was a reminder of like, hey, they can really kill niggas, bro.
and niggas
Like
will
they
die.
can kill your common person, and like the hold of the face
Yeah,
was insane, son, insane.
yeah, absolutely. That scene, I was like, oh shit. uh,
Yeah,
but there
yeah.
you have it, folks. That's it. That'll be it for us here over at the Adventures of Pod. 4.5. Rich gave it a 4. Wonder Man, wonderful show. If you've ever chased a dream, something about this show will resonate with you. I promise you that. I promise you that.
1,000%.
And with that, we leave y'all. We salute. Thank you for rocking with us. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good. And we'll see y'all on the next adventure. Peace.
One love.